Many people believe that fluent English is a gift. They think some people are naturally good at speaking while others are not. They look at confident speakers and assume that fluency came easily to them. But the truth is very different. Fluency is not a gift, it is a journey. It is a process of taking one small step after another, even when you feel nervous, even when you make mistakes, and even when you feel that you are not improving. The biggest obstacle in learning English is not grammar, it is not vocabulary, it is fear. Fear of being judged, fear of speaking incorrectly, fear of being laughed at. These fears stop many people from even trying. They wait for the perfect moment. They wait until they know every grammar rule. They wait until they have a large vocabulary. They wait until they feel ready. But confidence does not come before action. Confidence comes because of action. Every fluent speaker was once a beginner. Every person who speaks English confidently today once struggled to form simple sentences. They made mistakes. They forgot words. They mispronounced expressions. Yet they continued moving forward. The first step toward fluency is accepting that mistakes are part of learning. A child does not learn to walk without falling. A learner does not learn to speak without making errors. Instead of being embarrassed by mistakes, see them as proof that you are learning. Every mistake teaches you something new. Every correction brings you one step closer to fluency. The second step is learning a little every day. Many people try to learn everything at once. They study for hours one day and then stop for a week. Real progress does not come from occasional effort. It comes from consistency. Learning 5 new words every day is more powerful than learning 50 words once a month. Reading one short article daily is more effective than reading an entire book once and forgetting it. One of the greatest barriers that stands between a person and fluent English is not a lack of intelligence, talent, or opportunity. It is fear. Fear has a unique way of convincing people that they are not ready. It whispers that they need to learn more grammar, memorize more vocabulary, and practice more before they can finally begin speaking. As a result, many learners spend months and even years preparing to speak English without actually speaking it. They remain trapped in a cycle of waiting, believing that confidence will magically appear one day. The reality is that confidence is not something you wait for. It is something you build. Many people are afraid of making mistakes because they believe mistakes are signs of failure. They worry that others will laugh at them, judge them, or think less of them. This fear becomes so powerful that it prevents them from opening their mouths. They choose silence because silence feels safe. Yet silence never teaches anyone how to communicate. Every fluent English speaker you admire today has made countless mistakes. They have mispronounced words, forgotten vocabulary in the middle of conversations, used incorrect grammar, and struggled to express their thoughts. The difference is that they did not allow those mistakes to stop them. Think about how children learn their first language. They do not begin by speaking perfectly. They make errors every day. They pronounce words incorrectly, form incomplete sentences, and often say things that do not make sense. Yet no child stops trying because of those mistakes. They continue speaking, continue learning, and continue improving. Over time, their communication becomes clearer and more confident. Language learning works the same way for adults. Progress is impossible without mistakes because mistakes are evidence that learning is taking place. Every mistake carries a lesson. When you use the wrong word and someone corrects you, your understanding becomes stronger. When you mispronounce a word and learn the correct pronunciation, you become more accurate. When you struggle to express an idea and eventually find the right words, your communication skills grow. These moments may feel uncomfortable, but they are valuable. They are the moments that shape improvement. Unfortunately, many learners create unrealistic expectations for themselves. They believe they must speak perfectly before they can speak confidently. This mindset creates unnecessary pressure. Perfection is not the goal of communication. Communication is the goal of communication. If someone understands your message, then you have already achieved something meaningful. A small grammatical error does not erase the value of your ideas. An imperfect sentence does not make your thoughts less important. Imagine a person standing at the edge of a swimming pool, reading books about swimming and watching videos about swimming every day. They may become very knowledgeable about swimming techniques, but they will never become a swimmer until they enter the water. Speaking English works the same way. Reading and studying are helpful, but fluency develops when you actually use the language. The first conversation may feel awkward. The second may feel slightly easier. The third may feel more natural. Growth happens through participation, not observation. Fear often becomes stronger when people focus too much on what others think. They imagine every listener paying close attention to their mistakes. In reality, most people are focused on understanding the message rather than analyzing every word. Native speakers make mistakes. Professionals make mistakes. Public speakers make mistakes. Mistakes are a natural part of communication because language is a living skill, not a perfect performance. Courage does not mean being fearless. Courage means taking action despite fear. Every time you choose to speak English, even when you feel nervous, you strengthen your confidence. Every conversation becomes proof that you are capable of learning and growing. Confidence is not built in comfortable moments. It is built when you challenge yourself and discover that you can handle situations you once feared. The journey toward fluency begins with giving yourself permission to be imperfect. Allow yourself to pause while searching for words. Allow yourself to make grammatical errors. Allow yourself to speak with an accent. These things do not make you a poor English speaker. They make you a learner who is actively progressing. The person who speaks imperfect English every day will improve much faster than the person who remains silent while waiting for perfection. Language is a tool for connection. It allows people to share ideas, emotions, experiences, and dreams. The purpose of learning English is not to impress others with flawless grammar. The purpose is to communicate, connect, and express yourself. Every time you choose to speak despite your fears, you move closer to that goal. Every word spoken is a victory over self-doubt. Every conversation is a step forward in the journey of becoming fluent. One of the most common reasons people struggle to become fluent in English is that they underestimate the power of small daily efforts. Many learners begin their journey with excitement and determination. They create ambitious study plans, spend several hours learning grammar rules, memorize long vocabulary lists, and push themselves to learn as much as possible in a short period of time. For a few days, they feel motivated and productive. However, this intense approach often becomes difficult to maintain. Life becomes busy, motivation decreases, and gradually their learning routine disappears. Weeks later, they realize they have forgotten much of what they learned and feel discouraged about starting again. Fluency is not built through occasional bursts of effort. It is built through consistency. Just as a tree does not grow overnight and a river does not carve a path through rock in a single day, Language skills develop gradually through repeated practice. The secret is not doing something extraordinary once in a while. The secret is doing something simple every day. Many people believe that learning English requires long study sessions, expensive courses, or complicated methods. In reality, some of the most effective learning habits are surprisingly small. Learning 5 new words each day may not seem impressive at first. Reading one short article may feel insignificant. Listening to a 5-minute English podcast may appear too simple to make a difference. Yet, when these small actions are repeated consistently, they create remarkable results over time. Imagine placing 1 brick every day. A single brick may not look like much. However, after weeks and months of adding bricks, a strong wall begins to appear. Learning English follows the same principle. Every new word is a brick. Every sentence you read is a brick. Every conversation you attempt is a brick. Day by day, these small pieces come together to build fluency. One reason small daily learning works so well is that the human brain learns through repetition. Information becomes stronger when it is reviewed and used regularly. If you study for 8 hours in one day and then do nothing for the next 2 weeks, much of that information will fade from memory. On the other hand, studying for 20 or 30 minutes every day keeps your brain actively engaged with the language. It creates familiarity and strengthens retention. Consistency also helps reduce stress. Large goals often feel overwhelming. When people tell themselves they must master hundreds of vocabulary words or become fluent within a few months, they create pressure that can lead to frustration. Small goals feel manageable. Learning a few words today feels possible. Reading 1 page feels achievable. Listening to 1 short audio clip feels realistic. These small victories create momentum and encourage learners to continue. Another benefit of daily learning is that it transforms English into a habit rather than a task. Habits require less motivation because they become part of your routine. Think about brushing your teeth every day. You do not need extraordinary motivation to do it because it has become automatic. The same can happen with English learning. When you dedicate a specific time each day to practicing, whether it is 10 minutes in the morning or 30 minutes before bed, the process becomes natural and sustainable. Small daily efforts also allow learners to notice gradual improvement. Progress in language learning is often invisible in the short term. You may not feel significantly different after learning 5 new words today. However, after several months, you may discover that you understand conversations more easily, recognize vocabulary more quickly, and express yourself with greater confidence. These improvements are the result of accumulated effort rather than sudden breakthroughs. Patience plays an important role in this process. Many people become discouraged because they expect immediate results. They want to speak fluently after a few weeks of study. When that does not happen, they assume they are failing. Language learning does not follow that timeline. Every skill requires time to develop. Athletes train for years before reaching their full potential. Musicians practice thousands of hours before mastering their instruments. Language learners must also respect the process of gradual growth. The most successful learners are often not the most talented. They are the most consistent. They continue learning even when progress feels slow. They continue practicing even when they make mistakes. They understand that every day of effort contributes to future success. Instead of focusing on how far they still need to go, they focus on taking the next step. A person who studies English for 20 minutes every day throughout an entire year will often achieve more than someone who studies intensely for a few weeks and then quits. Consistency creates knowledge, confidence, and momentum. It turns learning into a lifestyle rather than a temporary project. Each day becomes an opportunity to improve, no matter how small the improvement may seem. Over time, these small steps grow into meaningful progress, stronger communication skills, greater confidence, and a deeper connection with the language they are working so hard to learn. One of the most important truths about learning English is that fluency does not come from knowing the language. It comes from using the language. Many learners spend years studying grammar rules, memorizing vocabulary lists, and completing exercises in textbooks. They understand English when they read it. They recognize words when they hear them. They may even score well on language tests. Yet when they are asked to speak, they hesitate. Their minds become filled with doubt. They search for the perfect words, worry about mistakes, and often remain silent. This happens because speaking is not simply knowledge. Speaking is a skill, and every skill grows through practice. Imagine someone who wants to become a great musician. They can spend hours reading books about music theory, studying famous composers, and learning every detail about instruments. However, if they never pick up an instrument and play, they will never become a musician. Knowledge is valuable, but practice transforms knowledge into ability. The same principle applies to English. Reading and listening help build understanding, but speaking develops fluency. Many learners avoid speaking because they feel unprepared. They believe they need more vocabulary before they can start conversations. They think they must master grammar before they can express themselves. They convince themselves that they will begin speaking once they reach a certain level. Unfortunately, that level never seems to arrive. There is always another grammar rule to learn, another word to memorize, or another lesson to complete. As a result, they remain trapped in preparation mode. The reality is that fluency is developed through action. The more you speak, the more comfortable speaking becomes. The more conversations you have, the more naturally words begin to come to your mind. Every time you use English, your brain strengthens the connections needed for communication. Speaking is like exercising a muscle. If you rarely use it, it remains weak. If you use it regularly, it becomes stronger. At first, speaking may feel uncomfortable. You may struggle to form sentences quickly. You may forget words you know well. You may make grammatical mistakes. These experiences are completely normal. Every learner faces them. What matters is not avoiding these challenges, but continuing despite them. Growth occurs when you push through discomfort and keep practicing. One of the biggest mistakes learners make is comparing themselves to fluent speakers. They listen to someone speaking confidently and assume that person never struggled. They see the result, but not the journey. Every fluent speaker once experienced uncertainty. Every confident communicator once searched for words, made mistakes, and felt nervous during conversations. Fluency is not the starting point. It is the outcome of consistent practice. Speaking practice does not require perfect conditions. Many people believe they need native speakers, expensive courses, or formal classes before they can improve. While these resources can be helpful, they are not the only path. Opportunities to practice exist everywhere. You can speak to friends who are also learning English. You can join online communities. You can record yourself speaking and listen to your pronunciation. You can stand in front of a mirror and practice expressing your thoughts. You can describe your daily activities, explain your opinions, or tell stories in English. Even speaking to yourself can be powerful. When you think aloud in English, you train your brain to organize thoughts in the language. This reduces the habit of translating everything from your native language. Over time, English begins to feel more natural because your mind becomes accustomed to using it directly. Another important aspect of speaking practice is accepting pauses and imperfections. Many learners believe fluent speakers never pause or hesitate. In reality, everyone pauses while speaking, even in their native language. Communication is not about speaking perfectly every second. It is about expressing ideas clearly enough for others to understand. A brief pause while searching for a word is not a failure. It is a normal part of conversation. Confidence develops through repeated experiences. The first conversation may feel intimidating. The second may feel slightly easier. The third may feel more comfortable. Gradually, situations that once seemed frightening become familiar. This transformation does not happen because fear disappears. It happens because experience grows stronger than fear. Every conversation teaches valuable lessons. You learn new vocabulary. You discover better ways to express ideas. You become aware of pronunciation patterns. You gain experience handling real communication. These lessons cannot be fully learned from books because they come from actual interaction. The path to fluency is not built on perfection. It is built on participation. Every sentence spoken strengthens your skills. Every attempt builds experience. Every conversation increases confidence. Speaking regularly turns passive knowledge into active ability. It transforms English from something you study into something you use. The learner who speaks imperfectly every day gains more practical experience than the learner who studies silently for years. Through consistent practice, hesitation becomes confidence, uncertainty becomes familiarity, and communication becomes increasingly natural and effortless. Many people believe that learning English only happens when they sit in a classroom, open a textbook, or attend a lesson. They separate language learning from their daily lives and treat it as a task that must be completed at a specific time. As a result, they spend only a few hours each week interacting with English and then wonder why progress feels slow. The truth is that fluency grows much faster when English becomes a natural part of everyday life. The more frequently you interact with the language, the more familiar it becomes. Instead of seeing English as a subject to study, begin seeing it as a tool to experience, explore, and connect with the world around you. Think about how people learn their first language. They do not learn it only through lessons. They hear it at home, on the street, in conversations, through stories, and in everyday situations. Language becomes familiar because it surrounds them constantly. While learning English as a second language is different, the same principle applies. The more exposure you have, the more opportunities your brain receives to absorb patterns, vocabulary, pronunciation, and sentence structures naturally. One of the simplest ways to make English part of your daily life is through listening. Every day presents opportunities to hear the language. You can listen to podcasts while walking, exercising, traveling, or completing household tasks. You can watch interviews, documentaries, educational videos, or motivational speeches. At first, you may not understand everything. Certain words may seem unfamiliar, and some speakers may talk too quickly. This is completely normal. Understanding develops gradually through repeated exposure. Listening regularly trains your ears to recognize sounds, accents, and natural speech patterns. It helps you become comfortable with the rhythm of the language. Over time, words that once sounded unfamiliar begin to feel recognizable. Expressions that seemed confusing start to make sense because you hear them repeatedly in different contexts. Reading is another powerful way to integrate English into your routine. Many learners limit themselves to textbooks, but English exists everywhere. You can read articles, blogs, news reports, short stories, biographies, or social media posts. The goal is not to understand every single word. The goal is to develop familiarity with the language. Every sentence you read introduces you to new vocabulary, sentence structures, and ways of expressing ideas. When reading becomes a daily habit, your vocabulary expands naturally. Instead of memorizing isolated word lists, you learn words in context. This makes them easier to remember and easier to use in conversations. Context gives words meaning and helps you understand how they function in real communication. Technology also provides countless opportunities to surround yourself with English. Many people spend several hours each day using smartphones, computers, and digital platforms. These devices can become valuable learning tools. Changing your phone settings to English encourages daily exposure to common words and phrases. Following English speaking content creators allows you to engage with authentic language. Watching videos, reading captions, and interacting with online content creates additional opportunities for learning. Another effective strategy is thinking in English. Many learners automatically translate everything from their native language before speaking. This habit can slow communication and create unnecessary confusion. Thinking directly in English helps train the brain to process the language more naturally. Start with simple thoughts. Describe what you are doing throughout the day. Name objects around you. Explain your plans, opinions, or observations in English. These small mental exercises strengthen your ability to use the language without relying on translation. Making English part of your daily life also means finding personal enjoyment in the learning process. People are more likely to remain consistent when they engage with topics they genuinely enjoy. If you love sports, watch sports content in English. If you enjoy business, read business articles. If you like technology, follow technology channels. If you enjoy stories, read novels and watch movies. Learning becomes easier when curiosity and enjoyment replace obligation. Many learners underestimate the power of small moments. They believe meaningful learning requires long study sessions. In reality, a few minutes of exposure throughout the day can have a significant impact. Listening to a podcast during a commute, reading a short article during a break, or watching a brief video before bed all contribute to improvement. These moments may seem small individually, but together they create consistent engagement with the language. The goal is not to make English an occasional activity. The goal is to make it a natural presence in your environment. When English becomes part of your daily routine, learning no longer depends entirely on motivation. It becomes integrated into your lifestyle. The language begins appearing in conversations, entertainment, information, and personal interests. Familiarity grows through repeated contact, and confidence grows through familiarity. Fluency develops when the language moves beyond textbooks and enters everyday experiences. Every podcast listened to, every article read, every thought formed in English, and every interaction with the language strengthens your connection to it. Day after day, these experiences build understanding, improve communication, increase confidence, and create an environment where learning feels natural, continuous, and deeply connected to everyday life.